I don't cry when watching anime. My channel stands as a testament to my investment in the medium, but while Clannad After Story and Grave of the Fireflies elicited tears from me, confirming I'm not a robot at least, nothing else had managed to. This is why it was so shocking when, as I was watching the 9th episode of Boku no Hero Academia's 2nd season, the tears started welling up. How? How is it that this uncomplicated shonen series, deeply entrenched in the conventions of that genre, with its very straightforward, direct narrative and fairly simple characters, resulted in such a strong reaction from me? While you might think that extremely layered characters grappling with heavy themes would be the best way to affect someone deeply, in some cases that simplicity and directness can actually be more poignant. In the case of Hiroaka, I think it's the combination of two simple elements that make it so emotionally resonant. There's an unquenchable spirit of optimism running throughout this series, and that's especially interesting when viewing it in comparison to its Western counterparts in the superhero genre. The X-Men, the Justice League, the Avengers. In all of these superhero universes, the heroes are, sometimes literally, an alien presence, a set of individuals that exist far removed from the normal person, and who are often viewed very contentiously because of that. One of the most central conflicts running throughout the story of the Avengers film franchise has been their fight for public perception, desperately combating the constant threat of being fearfully viewed as more of a danger than a protector. Hell, the latest Avengers film was about an ideological battle over how much the Avengers should be subject to the UN, the amount of obedience they owe to society. Oh yeah, and The Incredibles similarly features this major conflict between heroes and the public's distrust of them. You're welcome, Jeff. Though this approach is not intrinsic to Western stories about superheroes, if anything being more of a response to their original righteous portrayals, this greater level of cynicism and moral ambiguity in superhero stories seems to border on obligatory in a post-Watchmen world at times. Enter Hiroaka, and its presentation of a society where superheroes are not just normal and viewed without the concerned uncertainty of most of their Western counterparts, but one in which they are already neatly integrated into the structure of their society. Over time, we'll see individual heroes who are not as unambiguously good, and aspects of the system itself, like the vain appeals to popularity and status, will get criticized. But that's not important. What's important is that the core concept of the hero, and the institution formed around that idea, continues to be confidently held up as noble. The villains of the series are not evil because they have issues with this social order. They are in the wrong because instead of seeking to resolve them by reforming those shortcomings the series itself acknowledges do exist, they decide to address those issues by dismantling the system entirely. This basic belief in an ultimately worthwhile overarching institution is not exclusive to Hiroaka either. Other pieces of contemporary Japanese superhero fiction like One Punch Man and its Hero Association express a similar set of values. In his video on the series, Mother's Basement argued that it was individualism driving the actions of the bulk of Hiroaka's characters. But while that is generally the case, most of those individualistic strivings are still made within the existing hierarchical superstructure. As we've gone over, it's the villains who are the ones that act individualistically outside of that system. Even within the system itself, some types of individual expression will be cast in a negative light. As Pause and Select argues in his excellent video on the series, All Might, or perhaps more accurately, the very title he represents, the symbol of peace, is an institution unto itself. And in seeking to unseat All Might as the uncontestable #1 hero by presenting a threat to that institution, Endeavor is in the wrong. This downplaying of total, unrestrained individualism in favor of coming together to maintain the social order certainly makes sense in the context of these being Japanese stories, and allow for that greater faith in and optimism towards heroism that Hiroaka possesses. Reading through interviews with the manga's creator, Kohei Horikoshi, you can see his optimistic spirit on display, recounting how after the swift cancellation of his previous series had gotten him depressed, he ended up creating Hiroaka by pouring all of the happy things and events from his previous works into this one. Beyond viewing the institution of heroism as a positive force, on a more individual level, heroes are also seen through this optimistic lens. In the West, powers are often portrayed as some kind of burden, and/or are only gained as a result of some tragic circumstance. Soon after gaining his powers, Spider-Man is given a deeply painful example of the responsibilities he has now that he possesses those powers. Hulk's powers, gained from mutations that occurred as a result of exposure to radiation during a nuclear experiment gone wrong, are a source of immense amounts of distress and tribulation. Here, powers are not some unnatural freak accident, but instead the norm, something to look forward to. Far from being seen as a heavy burden, the possession of great strength is held up as an opportunity, both to help others and to gain personal success. Even one of the more depressing aspects of this situation is given a positive spin. Deku's circumstances are certainly tragic ones, and yet he is still given a chance to overcome them. The quirk One for All is the ultimate symbol of something you get not through natural might, but through worthiness, through work ethic, virtue, and intrinsic heroism. It is the series' defiant response to the pessimistic conclusion of Deku's mother that he will not be able to become a hero. It shows that in the world of Hiroaka, you don't necessarily have to be powerful to do good. The desire to do good can itself lead to you becoming powerful. That isn't to say that this society is totally without its issues. People like Hitoshi demonstrate how by the very nature of this society, quirks and quirk disparity can encourage one to turn to villainy and unfairly screw them over in attempts to do good. This also thoroughly proves my assertion that Hiroaka's outlook is ultimately an optimistic one, however. When Hitoshi's situation makes it clear that the entrance exam is unfair, the characters recognize those shortcomings and feel that reforms should be made to address them. And even in spite of the obstacles in his way, Hitoshi's sincere and unwavering desire to be a hero still gets recognized and manages to deeply impress everyone. That is optimism. It isn't a state of existence where everything is perfect and fair right now. It's a belief that with time, you can make things better. The overarching optimistic outlook makes the world of Hiroaka work so well, and with the effect this optimism has on the characters, we get the second key to the show's ability to resonate effectively: sincerity. Because they exist within this optimistic society, the characters in Hiroaka are empowered to believe in themselves and fully buy into their own kayfabe. And kayfabe is a good word for it. It's a wrestling term that describes the fiction being portrayed as reality. Randy Savage may not actually be an insane egomaniac who's got a compulsion to convince everyone that he is the cream of the World Wrestling Federation crop. But by God, he's going to put on a performance that will convince you he is.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Wrestlers play a character that as the audience we know on some level to be a character, but whose stories we buy into anyway. Similarly, in the context of Hiroaka's world, these people are characters. Part of being a hero is getting a costume designed to craft your aesthetic and sell a persona, but for most of the cast, those personas are also just their personalities. Goofy, absurd, and cartoonish are all words I'd use to describe various members of the cast, and yet all of them feel totally natural and believable as such. Aoyama truly believes he's some glorious gift to the world. Mineta really does have these wild, lustful tendencies. And Bakugo is absolutely the aggressive, cocky, and ill-tempered guy he's shown to be. And the anime's presentation really goes all in on that showing, especially in the second season, whose improved production quality I've covered in a previous video. Every character's unique and highly expressive personality is given a chance to fully express itself. Iida's constant wild hand movements are there endearing us to his self-seriousness that he constantly undercuts with his own somewhat immature excitability and over-eagerness. Present Mike's sense of showmanship is sold to us through all of his dramatic gesturing, and of course Bakugo's totally over-the-top attitude is conveyed fantastically by the dark, ultra-thick lines he'll be rendered in, and the menacing shadowy figure he'll appear as. If you've been involved in the anime community for the past few weeks here, you'll likely have noticed just how much genuine love and endearment these characters have elicited. And this is no accident. They are so incredibly, sincerely invested in what's going on that for many viewers it's impossible not to start caring alongside them. To feel a deep sense of almost parental pride in our sweet good boys and girls when they succeed, and a real tangible sympathy for them when they fall short. This takes us at last to episode 9 and to those tears. From the start, Uraraka is in an incredibly daunting situation. Her own abilities are not especially well suited for one-on-one combat, and she's up against perhaps the most ruthless opponent there is. In spite of these odds stacked against her, she has to win, has to advance and continue to show off her abilities to the present Hero Scouts, in order to secure herself a position after graduation and be able to support her parents like she's always desperately wanted to. Even more pressingly than that, however, Uraraka absolutely has to try. In this world driven by the belief that the power to improve things always exists, with these characters who are similarly empowered to have faith in their abilities to change things for the better, Uraraka looks around her at people like Deku, and feels like she has fallen short, failed her responsibility to fully take advantage of her opportunity to prove herself in this optimistic world where everyone is given that chance if they'll take it. This gives her fight with Bakugo a fascinating dynamic, where every fully committed effort, each and every inch of broken pavement she claws her body over while her muscles seize up, and now at their absolute limit begin to fail her, simultaneously represents a crushing failure and an incredibly powerful self-validation. She wants to win so badly, and is failing to do so in spite of trying so hard. Being at a point where something is simply beyond your abilities to achieve, absolutely, and no matter how hard you try, is a tragic set of circumstances. In this way, the fact she's trying so hard is utterly crushing, but at the same time, it's an intensely visceral and poignant fuck yeah moment as well. She is trying. She's trying more than anyone else ever has. She failed, but she has succeeded. Because it's only in failure that you can truly try as hard as possible. I mean, technically you could achieve victory through giving 100% of your effort, but just as a matter of statistical probability, that's extremely unlikely. Maybe you'll need to give 99.9% to be able to pass your opponent and cross that finish line first. But if something would require the full 100%, then it's only 0.1% away from requiring 100.1% of your ability, and thus being impossible. Her failure is utterly gut-wrenching, and yet it's also the thing that allowed for her euphoria-inducing success, and all of these emotions are playing hacky-sack with my heart at once, and now you've managed to get the tears flowing. Congratulations, Hiroaka. While Uraraka is the most standout example of this effect, it works in the favor of most of these characters to one degree or another. In the arm wrestling match immediately following this, the sincerity and depth of feeling with which Kirishima says is hilarious, adorable, and something I buy into as a legitimately emotional moment all at once. In a world where you can succeed, these characters who believe in that fact are very easy to create emotionally gripping stakes for. Kirishima and Metal Kirishima are nearly identical, and so both have an intense desire to prove himself by surpassing the other. Todoroki deeply resents his father's view of him as a tool for propagating his legacy, and so makes the resolution that he will be number one without using the powers his father gave him. Edward and Alphonse's quest to regain their bodies, wondering how to do so and if that possibility even truly exists, is an enthralling one in its own right. But the simplicity I mentioned Hiroaka possessing can also work, giving every character a goal and a chance to achieve it, and thus a reason for us to immediately care. This world operates by the logic that everyone has a chance to succeed as a core principle, so success and failure in all those goals carry a lot of weight. I think there's a real magic to Hiroaka and its characters, that they manage to consistently hit this sweet spot of being endearing, entertaining, and investment-inducing, and that more than anything else, it is this aspect of the series that will help it to continue its worldwide success. Don't disregard this one just because it's yet another big Shonen Jump series. It may be simple and silly, but it's also something special. I've got an announcement to make here at the end. I will be taking on regular editing work to cover my costs of living. I'm very grateful to be able to have my part-time job of sorts here be in the same field I already work in, but the increased workload may mean that my own video output, which has held steady with over 3 months of if nothing else my consistent weekly Friday upload, might have to finally slow. My supporters on Patreon are instrumental to me being able to continue doing this even in the part-time capacity that I'll now work on it in, so a massive thank you to them. If you'd like to help me towards being able to live off of working on my own content full-time, you can head on over there to join the likes of Sam Velociraptor, Izumi69, Remy Goldschmidt, Joji Matthews, Culver James Kamai, Chris Wagner, Chincho37, Mathwiz97, Capsize, Omi Fomi, Cherry Boy Writer, Car Keys, Valkion, Mickey Stopwatch, Andrew Amos, Kieran Rice, Raymond Tifi, Indigo, Lord Liquid Bacon II, Otaku Manboy, Shoko Asahara, Trey Allen, JK, and Donut. Thanks, guys.